All right, so you know the drill. You sent us some fascinating stuff, and we're diving deep.
That's right. We're all about zeroing in on the good stuff, those key insights.
We're going for those aha moments.
Without giving you information overload.
Yeah, exactly. And today's deep dive is into something called the Shimana Quantum Code.
Intriguing name.
Yeah, right. We're working with chapters a listener sent us from a book called Shimana Quantum Code S5, chapters 13, 14, 15.pdf.
Okay.
It's by Shema Shad-Rof. And this whole code revolves around identifying and releasing things that are stuck, kind of like hidden roadblocks.
Hidden roadblocks. Interesting.
Yeah, they're called things like trapped emotions, hidden beliefs, even hidden forces. And we're going to unpack that.
Sounds like we're in for quite the exploration.
Totally. We want to understand the core principles, how it views these emotional and energetic imbalances, and then the steps it gives to try to address those.
I'm ready when you are.
Let's dive in. Okay, so one of the first things that jumps out from the Shimana Quantum Code is this idea that our physical health, well, it's not just about the physical stuff, right?
Right, there's more to it than that.
Exactly. It's saying these imbalances, they might actually start on an energetic and emotional level, almost like a blueprint.
Like an energetic blueprint that then shows up physically.
Yeah. And these blueprints, they exist in these emotional, mental, even what it calls etheric layers.
Etheric layers. I'm intrigued.
Me too. So the idea is these energetic and emotional imbalances, eventually they kind of manifest into physical symptoms.
So the symptoms we see are like the tip of the iceberg.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And it says disease is like a signal, a sign of a deeper disharmony in our energy.
Fascinating. So it's not just treating the symptoms, but looking for the root cause.
Right. Now, to get to that root cause, the Shimana Quantum Code, it highlights 5 key areas where these emotional roots of disease tend to come from.
Okay, 5 key areas. Let's hear them.
All right, so the first one probably makes a lot of sense. It's personal experiences.
Okay, so like stuff that happens to us in our lives.
Exactly. So everything from, big childhood events, traumas, we experience significant moments, to just everyday relationship dynamics.
It's acknowledging the impact our personal stories have on us.
Yes. Our whole history, basically. And then things get a little more, how do I say this? A bit more esoteric with the second one.
More esoteric.
Okay.
I'm listening.
It's called preconception and soul-level trauma.
Whoa. Okay, that's a big one.
Right. It brings in these concepts of karmic contracts, past life experiences, even unresolved soul lessons.
So some of our challenges might come from even before this life.
That's what it's suggesting. And I don't know about you, but I find that pretty mind-blowing.
It definitely expands the scope of what we might consider influencing our well-being.
Totally. And then the third origin is prenatal and birth imprints.
So focusing on that time of the womb.
Yes. It highlights the connection between a mother and her child during pregnancy.
Makes sense. There's a powerful bond there.
Right. And it says inherited stress, even generational trauma, can be passed down through that connection.
Like we're picking up on things from our mothers even before we're born.
It's a powerful idea. And then building on that, we have the fourth origin, ancestral and genetic imprints.
So beyond just our mothers, now we're talking about ancestors.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really interesting. It proposes that emotional patterns can get passed down to us, like through our DNA.
Wait, the emotions can be inherited like physical traits.
That's the suggestion. Like it's streamed in our cellular memory. It's almost like this emotional inheritance.
Wow, I've never thought about it like that.
Me neither. It's a whole new way of looking at things. And then finally, the fifth source, it talks about collective consciousness.
The collective unconscious. That's a familiar concept from psychology.
Right. This is talking about how societal norms, the media, even cultural programming, they can shape our emotional responses and potentially contribute to imbalances.
So it's acknowledging that larger emotional atmosphere we all live in.
Exactly. It's like we're swimming in this sea of emotions and energy.
And absorbing some of it along the way.
It seems like it. So from these 5 origins, the book goes on to identify some core emotional imbalances.
Imbalances that are often linked to disease, you mean?
Yeah, and they're ones you've probably heard of before. Think of fear and survival stress.
Okay, that makes sense. Those are pretty primal emotions.
Right. And the code connects those to things like adrenal fatigue, autoimmune responses, that kind of chronic fear response.
It's like our bodies get stuck in fight or flight mode.
Exactly. And then there's rejection and unworthiness.
Ouch, those are tough ones.
Definitely. It says those can be linked to skin problems, even depression. It makes you think about how much our sense of self-worth can really impact our health.
It highlights that mind-body connection in a powerful way.
Yeah, and it doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
There's also abandonment and loneliness, which it connects to heart issues and hormonal imbalances.
Showing how important feeling connected is for our well-being.
For sure. Then we've got guilt and shame.
Those are heavy emotions to carry around.
Right. And the book links those to things like digestive problems and a weakened immune system. It's like all that heaviness, it weighs us down physically too.
It's almost like our bodies are trying to process those emotions, but getting stuck.
It could be. And last but not least, there's powerlessness and suppression.
Feeling like we don't have control over our lives.
That's it. And according to this perspective, that can manifest as thyroid imbalances, chronic pain.
So not being able to express ourselves or feel in control might actually show up physically.
It's a pretty powerful connection. The book really emphasizes this link between specific emotional states and their physical manifestations.
It's definitely giving me a lot to think about.
Me too. So now comes the question of what to do about these trapped emotions, right? And this is where the Shimana Quantum Code introduces a really interesting tool, a pendulum.
A pendulum?
Yeah.
Like the kind that swings back and forth.
Exactly. It's presented as a way to access the subconscious mind, that deeper part of us that often hold on to these unresolved feelings.
Okay, so it's like using the pendulum to communicate with our subconscious.
Exactly. The book describes it as a bridge, a way to tap into that deeper intuitive level.
I'm curious about the specifics. How does it work?
Okay, so first things first, you have to choose a pendulum that resonates with you. Some are made of crystal metal wood, different materials.
Right, so find one that feels right.
Exactly. And then you have to calibrate it, which basically means establishing your personal yes and no responses with the pendulum.
How do you do that?
It's pretty simple, actually.
Yeah.
You hold the pendulum and consciously ask it to show you yes, and you just watch which way it swings.
Okay.
Then you do the same thing for no, show me no. And that way it's personalized to your own energy.
So it's like establishing a communication system.
That's a great way to put it. So once it's calibrated, you start asking these clear, focused yes or no questions.
About trapped emotions.
Yes. For example, you might ask, do I have a trapped emotion that's contributing to this issue? Or is the origin of this emotion from my childhood?
And the pendulum swings yes or no.
Exactly. It's like your subconscious, or maybe even a higher intuitive source, is giving you a direct answer.
That's fascinating. So if you get a yes, you dig deeper.
You got it. You ask more specific follow-up questions until you really pinpoint what that trapped emotion is and where it originally came from.
It's like a detective game, but for your emotions.
I like that analogy. Now, to help with this whole identification process, the code introduces what's called the trapped emotion and organ table.
A table. What does it look like?
It's basically a grid. It's got 5 columns and 9 rows, and it's supposed to be a simplified system to link different emotions with the organs they're affecting.
Okay, so it's organizing the potential connections.
Exactly. So the 5 columns, they correspond to those 5 emotional origins we talked about earlier: personal experiences, prenatal, preconception, inherited, and collective.
Right, the 5 areas where those trapped emotions might originate.
You got it. And the 9 rows, each one represents a different organ or system in the body.
So it's breaking it down into categories.
Exactly. So the first step is you use the pendulum to figure out which of those 5 emotional origin categories the trapped emotion belongs to.
Okay, so you might ask, is this trapped emotion mostly from my personal experiences?
Something like that. And you'd watch how the pendulum responds.
And then what?
Once you know the right column, you narrow it down further by asking about even or odd-numbered rows to figure out the specific organ or body system that's involved.
So you'd say something like, is the affected organ in an even-numbered row?
Precisely. If it swings yes, then you ask about row 2, row 4, and so on until you find the exact row.
And that pinpoints the location.
Exactly. Then you look at where the column and the row intersect on the table.
And that tells you the trapped emotion and the organ it's connected to.
Exactly. It gives you that link between the emotional and the physical.
It's like a roadmap for emotional healing.
Right. But the book does say that sometimes you might need more info.
Like what kind of info?
Well, you might need to ask the pendulum about a specific timeline or the actual event where that emotion originated, just to really understand and process it.
To get the full picture.
That's it. So let's say you've used the pendulum and this table and you've identified a trapped emotion. What's the next step?
Well, according to the Shimana Quantum Code, you've got to release that emotion.
Easier said than done, right?
Maybe not. The book gives a 3-part process for releasing it.
3 parts. Okay, I'm listening.
First, you release the emotion itself, then you reset the affected organ system, and then you realign the corresponding meridian.
Okay, break that down for me.
All right, so the first step, releasing the trapped emotion. This one involves a physical action and an affirmation.
Okay.
You tap the center of your palm 3 times using your index and middle finger.
3 taps. Got it.
While you're doing that, you say out loud, I now release this trapped emotion of, and here you say the name of the emotion from my or the client's mind, body, and soul in all dimensions of time and space.
Whoa, that's pretty powerful.
It's a very comprehensive statement aiming for a complete release.
Makes sense. So you tap and say that affirmation, and then what?
Then you check in with your trusty pendulum.
To confirm it's really gone.
Exactly. You ask, has this trapped emotion been fully and completely released?
And if it says yes.
Then you move on to step 2, resetting the affected organ system.
Okay, so we're working on the physical level now.
That's right. This step also involves tapping the palm 3 times while saying a new affirmation.
What's the affirmation this time?
You say, I now reset the name of the affected organ to its original perfect health design.
So we're bringing it back to its natural state of balance.
Exactly. And the book even suggests visualizing the sacred geometry of infinite love surrounding the organ.
To boost the healing process.
Exactly. And as before, you confirm with the pendulum, has the organ name been fully reset to its original perfect health design?
Always checking in, making sure it's working.
Right. Then comes the final step, realigning the corresponding meridian.
Meridians, I've heard of those.
They're like energy channels in the body. And the idea is that trapped emotions can create blockages or imbalances in these meridians.
So we need to clear those out.
Exactly. So for this step, you tap your palm 3 times again and give the command, I now realign the meridian associated with the organ name to its original perfect flow.
Okay, and I bet I know what comes next.
You got it. Pendulum check. Has the meridian realignment been fully completed?
Confirmation, confirmation, confirmation.
It's all about ensuring every step is complete before moving on.
Makes sense. But that's just for one specific emotion, right?
Right. And the book emphasizes that often there are multiple trapped emotions contributing to one health issue.
So it's not just a one and done kind of thing.
Not usually. So after you've addressed one emotion, you need to check if there are others still lingering.
Back to the pendulum.
Yep. You'd ask, are there any other trapped emotions contributing to this name of the disease or symptom?
And if the answer is yes.
You go through that whole release, reset, and realign process for each emotion you find.
Okay, so it can be a pretty involved process.
It can be. But the book also says that typically a person releases up to about 6 emotions in a session.
6. That's a good amount.
Right. But it's important to remember that healing takes time.
Especially for those really deep-rooted emotions.
Exactly. Things from prenatal experiences, past lives, ancestral lines, they can take a bit longer to uncover and release.
So patience is key.
Definitely. Okay, so remember that table we talked about earlier?
The trapped emotions and organ table.
That's the one. Well, the book also offers a faster approach, something called the Symptoms-Associated Organs and Trapped Emotions chart.
So it's like a shortcut.
Exactly. This chart directly connects specific symptoms or imbalances with the organs or chakras they're associated with, and it even suggests some common trapped emotions that might be at play.
So you can bypass the pendulum questions about the origin?
Right. It's more direct. For example, it connects adrenal fatigue and kidney issues with fear and anxiety.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. Breathing problems are often linked to grief and sadness. Liver issues to anger and resentment. It gives you a starting point based on what you're experiencing.
Interesting. So it's like a quick reference guide.
That's a good way to put it. And it covers a wide range of things. Weight gain is associated with shame and guilt affecting the stomach area, heart palpitations, with rejection and unworthiness impacting the heart-thyroid imbalances, with powerlessness linked to the thyroid gland.
It's pretty comprehensive.
It is. It even touches on broader things like depression being linked to hopelessness, anxiety to a sense of collective fear. And get this, it suggests that unexplained phobias might be connected to inherited trauma carried in the bloodline.
Oh, that's intense.
Right. It really makes you think. So this chart, it's meant to be a starting point for self-inquiry based on your symptoms.
Okay, and once you have an idea of the emotion and the organ, what do?
The book outlines a specific emotional release protocol just for self-healing.
So it's like a DIY version.
Exactly. It's more condensed than the full protocol we went through before, but it follows the same principles.
Okay, walk me through it.
So first, you consciously acknowledge the emotion you think you're holding on to.
Bring it out to the open.
You got it. You put your palm on your heart and say something like, I acknowledge that I've been holding on to name of the trapped emotion. I choose to release it completely.
So you're speaking directly to that emotion.
Exactly. Then you activate the energy release by tapping your palm 3 times and saying with intention, I fully and completely release this name of the emotion from my mind, body, and soul in all dimensions of time and space.
It's similar to the full protocol, but more concise.
Right. Then you reset the affected organ and realign its meridian by tapping 3 times and saying, I now reset my organ name to its original state of perfect health and balance.
Okay.
And then tap 3 more times, while affirming, I now realign the meridian connected to my organ name into its highest and most harmonious flow.
Bringing everything back into alignment.
That's it. And lastly, you call in divine support.
Like we did before with the archangels.
Exactly. You can visualize yourself surrounded by the sacred geometry of infinite love and a golden healing light.
Beautiful.
Right. And the book ends this chapter with a set of final affirmations for emotional release to help with integration, ancestral healing, even clearing on a collective level.
Wow. So it's addressing all those different layers.
It's really thorough. Okay, so are you ready to move on to chapter 14?
I am. What's next on this healing journey?
Chapter 14 dives into releasing hidden beliefs.
Hidden beliefs, what are those?
They're those deep down, often unconscious beliefs that we have that can really affect our lives.
I'm listening.
The idea is that these beliefs shape our reality. And if they're limiting beliefs, well, they can block us from experiencing things like healing, abundance, good relationships.
So it's not just emotions, it's our thought patterns too.
Exactly. The book explains how these hidden beliefs can manifest as self-sabotaging behaviors, repeating those same negative patterns over and over, or just resisting change even when we want it.
So it's like we're working against ourselves without even realizing it.
That's the idea. And there's this message included from Master Al-Qadir.
Okay.
And he emphasizes that sometimes illness itself is actually a message.
A message. Like from our subconscious.
Exactly. It's like our body is trying to communicate these underlying limiting beliefs to us.
That's fascinating. So how do we even know what these beliefs are?
The book provides a list of hidden beliefs that block healing. Things like, if I heal, no one will take care of me. Or, my illness gives me a sense of purpose.
Wow. I can see how those beliefs would get in the way of healing.
Right. Even if you treat the physical symptoms, if the belief is still there, you might unconsciously create new health challenges, or just keep the old ones going.
So it's like addressing the root cause on a deeper level.
Exactly. And the first step to addressing them is to identify them right.
Okay, how do we do that?
The book uses another chart called the Health and Healing Beliefs chart. And of course, the pendulum.
Right, so we're back to pendulum dowsing.
Exactly. This chart has 3 columns and 10 rows, and it lists various common beliefs people have about health and well-being. You use the pendulum the same way as before, first asking which column the belief is in, then narrowing it down with even or odd row questions until you find the exact belief.
So it's like a process of elimination.
You got it. Once you've identified the belief, the book says to really try to understand the message behind the illness.
So like asking yourself, if my illness could talk, what would it be telling me about my beliefs?
That's it. It's about listening to what your body is trying to say.
Deep stuff. So once you've identified the belief and understood its message, then what?
Then you consciously acknowledge and release it.
How do you do that?
You say something like, I now let go of this belief and state the belief clearly, and I open myself to allowing divine healing to flow freely through me.
So you're affirming your intention to let go.
Exactly. And the book suggests calling upon Master Al-Qadir and Archangels Raphael and Zadkiel for support.
Powerful allies.
For sure. And specifically, it talks about invoking the violet flame, which is known for its transformative energy.
I've heard of that. What's the last step?
It involves visualization. You imagine a golden purple healing light enveloping your entire being, helping to restore your body to its natural blueprint of perfect health.
That's beautiful.
It is. And then the book also gives a more active process for actually reprogramming that limiting belief.
Reprogramming, like rewiring our thinking.
Exactly. First, you state the limiting belief out loud, bringing it into your awareness. Then you tap your heart center 3 times and say something like, I now release the limiting belief. Then you state the belief.
Okay.
Right after that, you introduce a new positive belief that replaces the old one. So, for example, if the old belief was, I don't deserve to be healthy, the new one might be, I am worthy of perfect health and well-being.
So you're replacing negativity with positivity.
Exactly. You tap your palm 3 times to help integrate this new belief, and then call on divine support again.
This time as archangels Zadkiel and Raphael, right?
You got it. And you can visualize that violet and golden light along with the sacred geometry of infinite love.
And of course, we check with the pendulum to make sure the belief has been fully released.
Always checking in. And if it hasn't been fully released, well, that's a sign that you might need to do some deeper work.
Okay, so we've covered trapped emotions and hidden beliefs. Is there anything else?
There is. Chapter 15 introduces the idea of clearing hidden forces.
Hidden forces, what are those?
They're described as these deeper, more subtle, energetic obstacles that can impact our well-being even beyond emotions and beliefs.
So like another layer.
Exactly. And they're categorized as mental energies, karmic agreements, and offensive energies.
Okay, so let's start with mental energies. What are those all about?
They're basically subconscious imprints that can stem from prolonged periods of suffering. Like if someone's been through a lot of hardship.
Makes sense.
But they can also be absorbed from other people, especially children and empaths, or even inherited from our ancestors.
Wow, so it can be carrying around other people's energy.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And these mental energies, they can manifest as things like a lack of will to heal a deep sense of hopelessness or inherited survival fears.
So how do we identify and release these energies?
First, you use the pendulum to see if such an energy is present.
Okay.
And if it is, you ask whether it's self-created, absorbed from someone else, or inherited from your ancestors.
Right.
The book gives a list of potential mental energies to inquire about things like no will to live, inherited survival fears, or absorbed hopelessness.
So you're getting specific with your questions.
Exactly. Once you've pinpointed the energy and its source, you move on to the release process.
What does that look like?
You speak these affirmations aloud, and while you're saying them, you tap on your palm or your heart center.
Okay.
And what's interesting is that the archangel you call upon depends on where the mental energy came from.
So it's tailored to the situation.
Right. If it's absorbed from someone else, you call on Archangel Michael. If it's inherited, you call on Archangel Zadkiel and the Violet Flame. And if it's self-created, you call on Archangel Raphael.
So you're enlisting the help of different archangels depending on the source.
Exactly. And there are specific clearing commands for each type of mental energy in the book.
So it's important to follow those guidelines.
Yes. Then after releasing the energy, you do an affirmation and healing integration.
Okay.
You tap your palm 3 times and say something like, I now release all name of the mental energy. I reclaim my energy and vitality. I am free. I am whole. I am healed.
That's a powerful affirmation.
It is. And then you seal and protect your energy field.
How do you do that?
You can visualize a golden sphere around you along with the sacred geometry of infinite love.
Creating a protective barrier.
Right. And you affirm, I am divinely protected in all ways and at all times.
Okay, so that covers mental energies. What about those offensive energies?
Offensive energies, those are external influences that can impact us negatively.
Like what kind of influences?
Things like energetic sabotage, the evil eye, even black magic.
Wow, that sounds intense.
It can be. It also includes things like entity attachments and negative projections from other people.
So it's like energy that's directed at us with the intention to harm?
That's one way to think about it.
Yeah.
And as always, you use the pendulum to identify if this type of energy is present.
Okay, and if it is?
Try to figure out where it's coming from. Is it an external attack? An entity? Or maybe even something you're doing to yourself unconsciously?
Interesting. So there are different possibilities.
There are. Once you've identified the source,
Yeah.
you start the release process. And the first step is always protection.
Shielding yourself from further harm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You call upon archangels, Michael, Metatron, and Zadkiel, invoke the Violet Flame and the sacred geometry of love.
Creating that powerful energetic shield.
You got it. Then you speak a clearing command, something like, by the authority of divine light, I now command all negative and offensive energies to be cleared and removed from my being in all dimensions of time and space.
It's like you're taking back your power.
Exactly. And after that command, you seal and protect your energy field by visualizing a golden sphere around you, drawing the sacred geometry of love, and asking Archangel Raphael to restore your energetic integrity.
So you're reinforcing that protection.
Yes. And then you check with the pendulum again to make sure the energy is completely gone and see if you need continued protection.
So you're not just assuming it's gone, you're verifying it.
Right. And you can also ask if there are any underlying karmic contracts that might be contributing to the issue.
Ah, so sometimes it goes even deeper than just an energy attack.
It can. The book suggests things like using protective crystals, visualizations, salt baths as preventative measures too.
Interesting. So it's about actively protecting yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so the last thing we need to cover is karmic agreements.
Karmic agreements. What are those all about?
Well, karma is basically the principle of cause and effect, right? And these agreements are like soul-level contracts that we make.
Contracts for what?
They can be about all sorts of things. but they often manifest in our lives as recurring problems, emotional wounds or toxic relationships that keep repeating.
So it's like we're bound by these agreements from the past.
That's the idea.
Uh,
And you can use the pendulum to see if there's an active karmic agreement affecting you right now.
okay, and if there is...
You can ask if it's rooted in emotions like guilt, shame, or abandonment.
Those are some heavy hitters.
They are. You can also ask if it comes from a past life or your ancestral lineage.
So how do we release these karmic agreements?
It starts with calling on the Lords of Karma and Archangel Zadkiel,
Okay.
and then you recite a specific karmic release prayer.
What does that prayer involve?
You state your full name and declare your intention to be released from the agreement and any vows or obligations connected to it across all lifetimes and dimensions.
So you're breaking those ties.
Exactly. And visualization is really important here too. You imagine the agreement dissolving and the cords connecting you to it being severed.
Wow, it's a powerful image.
It is. The last step is to seal the healing and prevent the agreement from reattaching.
How do you do that?
You check with the pendulum to confirm the release call in divine light, activate the sacred geometry of love, and affirm your freedom.
What kind of affirmation?
Something like, I am sovereign, I am free. All karmic debts are now cleared and all associated contracts are null and void.
So you're declaring your independence?
Exactly.
Wow, this has been quite the journey.
It has. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have, but it's clear that this Shimana Quantum Code, it offers a really in-depth way of understanding how these unseen parts of ourselves, the trapped emotions and hidden beliefs and hidden forces, can really impact our well-being.
It's a holistic approach looking at all those different levels.
And it gives very specific steps for identifying, releasing, and healing those blockages using the pendulum affirmations and divine support.
It's a toolbox for energetic and emotional healing.
Exactly. And I think it really speaks to what you, our listeners, are looking for. Deep knowledge, those aha moments, and a sense of empowerment.
It's about taking an active role in our own well-being.
Exactly. So here's something for you to think about. Which of these concepts resonated most with you? Was it those trapped emotions, those limiting beliefs, or maybe those hidden forces?
It's a good question to ponder.
It is. And what's one small step you can take today to explore or release something that came up for you? Just imagine how understanding these hidden influences could shift your perspective on your own healing and growth.
It's an invitation to dive deeper into ourselves.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Until next time, keep seeking those aha moments.